Kemi Badenoch got absolutely rinsed by this community note on X today. As you are, I'm sure, very aware, we had Jess Phillips. It was revealed yesterday by GB News in a letter that they were shown from Oldham Council. She rejected Oldham's request for a government-led inquiry into the grooming gang scandal in their area. This has gone viral. Elon Musk has been tweeting about it, and now, of course, everyone is on their X accounts demanding a proper national government-led inquiry into this issue that has plagued this country for decades. And of course, Kemi Badenoch has commented as well, saying we need a full national inquiry. But then we found out that the Conservatives actually, just like Jess Phillips, also rejected Oldham's request for a government-led inquiry back in 2022. So Kemi, she tweeted, she said, "The time is long overdue for a full national inquiry into the rape gang scandal. Trials have taken place all over the country in recent years, but no one in authority has joined the dots. 2025 must be the year that victims start to get justice." But then she got community noted with this. The Conservative government rejected a request for a public inquiry into grooming gangs in Oldham in September 2022. They also did not commission a national inquiry into grooming gangs during the 14 years they were in government. So, of course, Kemi Badenoch, she was not the Prime Minister when the Tories were in power. But I think a lot of people are looking at this and saying, you know, it feels a little bit too little, too late for the Conservatives. Where was Kemi Badenoch tweeting over the 14 years when the Conservatives were in government demanding a national inquiry into this? Was she banging on the doors of the various Conservative Prime Ministers that we had saying we need to do something about this, we need to do something about this? I am not sure. So before we have a look at the letter of the Conservatives rejecting the request from Oldham in 2022, I just want to show you another bit of hypocrisy from Jess Phillips that I've seen on X today, which, this video has not aged well, ladies and gents.
Actual reality of what is happening in government currently is a sticking plaster, announceable thing like the Grooming Task Force. We're a year on from the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. Years and years worth of evidence. And a year on, not a single one of the recommendations. The government have said they'll take some of them. There's no timeline for when any of those recommendations are going to happen, and that's both about prevention and supporting of victims who have been victims of sexual violence in childhood. It's just, the Prime Minister, this is nowhere near the top of his priority list. I'm not at all reassured. Rishi Sunak is doing nothing. And today, exactly what happened in Rochdale is happening in every single part of our country.
So there we have Jess Phillips there when she was sat on the opposition benches, feeling very, very passionate about the grooming gangs and attacking the Conservative government for how little they have done about the issue. Now that the Labour Party is in government, it seems like she doesn't give a toss, and she's looking like quite the hypocrite. But let's get into what happened with the Tories back in 2022. So it now seems to be the case from this letter that we've seen, I won't read you the whole thing, that the Conservatives also rejected the same kind of request from Oldham Council back in 2022. You can see the date on that letter, 2nd of September 2022. And it says at the beginning, "Thank you for your letter of 20th of July to the Home Secretary about child sexual exploitation in Oldham. I am replying as the Minister for Safeguarding, and I am sorry for the delay in responding to your letter." Starts off almost exactly the same as the one that Jess Phillips wrote, in that they took months to respond to the letter. Poor Oldham Council having to sit there waiting, feeling like nobody's listening to them, only to get a letter back saying, "Sorry, we cannot help." And this letter is very long and boring. It goes on, as you can see there, signed by Amanda Soloway, MP. But the essence of the letter is that it basically says, we do think that this is a really big problem, but our view is that inquiries into local grooming gangs are to be done by the local council, and national government should not have anything to do with it. That means that they cannot get the resources that they need. And my understanding is that Oldham, they did lead an inquiry themselves, but actually, they didn't really have the resources to make it significant enough to make the big impact that it needed and to uncover what was necessary. It only covered the span of 2011 to 2014. It just wasn't enough. They need the funding from the government, and in order for us to connect the dots and understand how this problem has occurred on a nationwide scale, I think that we do need a national inquiry that covers the whole country, not just looking at one specific hotspot at a time. So some more updates on what is going on with this. We have had Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, write a letter to Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, demanding a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. So a lot of pressure on the Labour government. As I said, Elon Musk has been tweeting about this, which has really made it sort of a global issue over the past 24 hours. And the Labour Party will be feeling the pressure on this. We've also had Matt Goodwin tweet saying, "I have just lodged a request with the UK parliamentary authorities for a citizen-led petition demanding a national inquiry on the grooming gang scandal. I'll update you on progress." So looks like we will hopefully have a petition on the government website, and I'm sure it will not be hard to get that past the 100,000 signatures that are necessary for them to have to consider it for debate in Parliament. I think if it passes 100,000 signatures and they refuse to debate it in Parliament, I think they're going to make the British people absolutely furious. I think that they will. They will have to debate it, and it's going to be quite hard for them to justify why they are refusing to do a national inquiry. Rupert Lowe also has been chiming in. Reform MP Rupert Lowe. I think that the Reform Party are definitely in a unique place to comment on this, because I think it's quite difficult for the Conservative Party, as you saw with that tweet from Kemi Badenoch, to make demands. I do want them to stand up and say, yes, there needs to be a national inquiry. I don't want them to be silent, but I don't think that their request comes with that much validity when they look a bit hypocritical, given that they were in power for 14 years and didn't really do very much about it, aside from the grooming gangs task force that Suella Braverman set up towards the very end after the GB News documentary on the issue. Rupert Lowe, the Home Office must absolutely despise Rupert Lowe, because he has really, really pushed them hard since the moment he came into Parliament. The poor guy probably never sleeps because he is so busy making demands of the Home Office. So Rupert Lowe, if you're not aware, he has been making demands of the Home Office, for example, to release data about migrants and crime. They are still refusing to give the data, by the way, but he is pushing and pushing and pushing. He pushed the Home Office to reveal what their policy is about consulting local communities when they open up migrant hotels. This came after, the Altrincham case became quite high profile, where in that part of Manchester they opened up a migrant hotel without telling the community whatsoever, right by an all-girls school and a primary school. And the Home Office actually did come back to him on that occasion and revealed that their official policy is not to tell the community at all when they are opening up a migrant hotel. And Rupert Lowe, he is back on the Home Office today, keeping the pressure on, and he says this: "I'm asking the Home Office some questions this morning. Will they commit to a full, free and fair national inquiry into the mass rape gang scandal, publication of all details so the British people can see for themselves the extent of the horror? Will they commit to deporting all foreign nationals involved, including family members who were aware of the crimes and therefore complicit?" Just want to make a note on that point before I continue reading his tweet. You have, for example, you have a couple of leaders, or grooming gang ringleaders, who are in Rochdale. They are still walking the streets a decade after release from prison. So one of them only had to serve 2.5 years in prison, by the way. Quite not that much longer than some of the prison sentences people are getting for writing tweets. So he only had to serve 2.5 years in prison for leading a grooming gang that abused up to 47 young girls as young as 12 years old. Only 2.5 years in prison. Came out of prison in 2014 and has been able to fight deportation since, using ECHR grounds like, oh, I've got a wife and kids, I've got a right to a family life. Actually did not win or appeal on those grounds. But then Pakistan said, we don't want the guy back, sorry. And then the guy also, the two guys involved, they got rid of their Pakistani citizenship. They said, no, just throw our Pakistani passports away, so that we're considered stateless and they can't send us anywhere. So those people one of them actually still lives in Rochdale, in a house that kids walk by on the way to school every single day. He's allowed to live there in the community, okay? So I think it's very important that this demand about deporting people is raised. Also bear in mind that one of the court hearings recently, one of the victims was able to make a very powerful statement in court about her thoughts, with her perpetrators sat in front of her, but she did have to remove one part of her speech. They insisted that she wasn't allowed to say one part of it, and that was where she asked for them to be deported after their sentences are served. But they said you can't say that. That's for that's not for the court. That's a matter for the Home Office. So I don't think that should have been removed from her speech. So I think it's important that Rupert Lowe and others make the Home Office, put pressure on the Home Office to start deporting these people. That needs to be part of the conversation on this. Anyway, he continued to say, will they commit to stripping citizenship from dual nationals implicated and deport them too? Will they undertake a full investigation into officials who had knowledge of these crimes yet failed to act? Even worse, proactively covering it up. How many girls do they estimate have been affected? What is the Home Office currently doing in order to prevent ongoing grooming, rape, exploitation or abuse of young British girls? How many girls are estimated to still be involved with these gangs? Do bear in mind, this is not just a thing of the past. This is not just an inquiry that we're asking for about what happened in the past. This is still ongoing today. There are still girls being abused, and I think we cannot sleep until it is stopped. Will they publish a full nationality breakdown of those convicted for such offences, along with the location of their crimes? One of the reasons why this was covered up for so long, and that another thing was done about it, was because of them not wanting to face up to the fact that the majority of people committing these crimes were Pakistani. They hid behind the umbrella of the term Asian and said Asian men, even though nobody who is, say, Chinese or Japanese, for example, has ever been involved in these crimes. It was specific to Pakistani culture, this issue. Not that every single person involved in a grooming gang is Pakistani, but you get the point. He then, just quite a long tweet from Rupert, but he goes on to say, will they publish a breakdown of the immigrant status of those involved? On what grounds were they in the UK? Do they have previous convictions? How many foreign nationals found guilty have been released but not deported? How many reoffences have occurred? I'm not aware of a single person who has been deported, who's a foreign national, who has been involved in the grooming gang. So many of these, they've been to prison for way shorter than they should be in prison. I mean, I think you should be in prison for life, to be honest, if you're involved in one of these grooming gangs. But they're allowing them to live in the communities, go back to the places where they abuse young girls, and allow, the young girls just have to see them on a daily basis. Well, some of them not young anymore, they're adults now, a lot of them, but, still terrifying to see these people walking around your community. I think that's absolutely horrifying. They should absolutely be deported. He says, how many children have been born following a rape from these men? How many have been given access to the child against the mother's wishes? How many have used the child as a route to remain in the UK? Very good point there. Will the Home Office commit to preventing this in the future? Will the Home Secretary officially apologise to all those affected for the state's failure to act and look to provide a comprehensive compensation scheme? Well, they won't compensate the waspy women, so I doubt they'll be compensating these guys, but important to ask that question. Will lifelong sentences now be considered? I mean, as I said there earlier, I can't believe that some of these people who are going to prison, you think, great, they've been convicted, they're only having to go to prison for a couple of years for systemically raping young girls. Not just one, often multiple girls, again and again, over and over and over and over again. I mean, the abuse is off the scale. A ringleader only having to spend 2.5 years in prison. What? Nowhere near long enough. It should be a lifelong sentence, if you ask the lifelong sentence or deportation, so that the British taxpayer doesn't have to pay to house and feed them. He says, which politicians, local and national, had knowledge of these events but failed to act, again going as far to actively conceal what has truly happened. This is a debate that needs to happen, and it has been disgracefully ignored and suppressed for too long. We will fight for answers in Parliament. So there you go. Long tweet from Rupert Lowe there, and as you can very clearly see there, a heck of a lot of demands of the Home Office. He is not holding back whatsoever, and I trust that Rupert Lowe will keep putting pressure on the Home Office to make sure that something is done about it. I hope that the pressure and the backlash that we are seeing on this issue today and yesterday is going to force Labour into a U-turn on this and get them to announce that we can have a government-led inquiry into this. I don't know whether they will or not, but I really, really do hope so. Flip-flop Starmer, I hope that he is a flip-flop on this and he does change his mind. This is a U-turn that I actually would like to see from the Labour government. And just to show you, I just saw this video earlier that I want you to see, just to show you kind of how messed up the authorities' response to the grooming gang scandal has been over the years. I just want to show you this one example of Andrew Norfolk spoke about, of when the neighbours called when they heard a girl screaming.
And at 2:30 in the morning, the next morning, a woman on the other side of Rotherham had picked up the phone and dialed 999 because she'd heard a young girl screaming in the house next door. Police had gone round to the house. They found this 13-year-old girl with another young girl. She was almost completely naked, she was blind drunk, and she was with 7 adult Pakistani men. She was drunk and leery. And South Yorkshire Police arrested the 13-year-old girl for being drunk and disorderly. They took her back to the station, put her in the cells, eventually charged her, and she was convicted. They didn't even question the men as to why they were in a house with a 13-year-old girl who was nearly naked in the early hours of the morning.
So there we go, Andrew Norfolk talking about a pretty horrifying example there of the police arresting the girl that was being abused rather than those who were abusing her. How messed up is that? It's just beyond belief. We've seen so many cases of the police just going for the easy option when they arrest people. You know, for example, I know, completely unrelated issue, but similar theme. When we've seen, protests taking place, pro-Palestine marches, and a Jewish person is being attacked or is at risk of being attacked, and what they do is the police will go after the Jewish person for being there. You saw, I can't remember his name, trying to involve in the campaign against anti-Semitism, trying to wanted to walk across the road at a protest, and the police said that he was causing problems by being visibly Jewish and having his skull cap on and whatnot, and we also had an example in Scotland where the police were telling a guy off for having his Star of David showing at one of these protests, saying this could provoke people in this crowd, and there are only a few of us police officers here, so can you please take it off? Going for the easy route. You see a group of Pakistani men abusing one young girl, and you think, oh, it's easier to arrest the one young girl and remove her from the situation than deal with all of these men. That's monumentally messed up. Police need to do the right thing rather than the easy thing. Anyway, so that is your latest update on the grooming gang scandal. We want to keep the pressure on so that the Home Office, Jess Phillips, the Labour Party, hopefully do something about this and allow there to be a national inquiry. We will, of course, keep you updated with everything that is going on. Happy New Year to you all, and see you soon.
Still watching? Well, I've got a quick ask for you. Recent UK, we're fighting the woke brigade and inspiring young Brits, but we need your help to go bigger. We're hosting a fundraiser and would love you to sign up and share the link on the big day. It's easy, it makes a massive impact, and there are prizes for top fundraisers. Click the Google form in the description to join us. Cheers very much. Let's keep going together.